Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the first series of the Evolution podcast, where we meet with owners in the coaching and training small and medium business space to discuss evolving their business and client impact in the era of AI. Today, I'm really happy to have Natalie Spiro with me. Natalie is the founder and CEO of Drum Cafe North America and has provided unique and interactive drumming experiences to over 300,000 participants across corporations like Google, Microsoft, Intel, and more. And she's also founded Blue Fire Leadership. Welcome, Natalie. Please introduce yourself further.
Thank you so much, Ethan. I so firstly want to say I'm full of gratitude to be here today. It was so great that we met. My name is Natalie Spiro. Natalie, kind of the accent is from South Africa, which is where I grew up. Emigrated to America in 2000. My two businesses, Drum Cafe North America, as you brilliantly said, does team building and team bonding using drumming as a medium. Blue Fire Leadership is the company that works with clients on developing leadership development programs, all my coaching. I'm a Gallup Strength certified coach. I'm an executive certified coach, ICF coach. So that's a little bit about my business side. I also am a mentor for a company called Pinnacle Global Network that mentors CEOs to scale their business into the seven-figure range. And I have a nonprofit I'm starting, which I probably will talk to you more about at a later point. But essentially, it's bringing the underserved communities of kids, so schools, faculty, etc., social emotional learning, conflict resolution, anti-bullying techniques and tools, but also using rhythm as the baseline. And it's kind of a unique concept, so I will speak about that a little later. And finally, I'm finalizing a book that I have written around, it's called The Rhythm of Leadership, and it really talks to how the ancestral wisdom of rhythm impacts the modern day principles of leadership, especially in a world of AI.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I was smiling there for a second when you said rhythm and then bass line, and I was thinking like rhythm and bass, and it perfectly married together. Yeah, so many different things that are being built. And also, we talked about during the pre-podcast call that we had being rebuilt after everything with COVID. So an interesting shift of eras here. And so the episode today is going to be on rebuilding and building in the era of AI. With you being the perfect person to touch on this, given that you're rebuilding your business back to that seven-figure point that you had it at prior to COVID, while also building up Blue Fire Leadership, launching your nonprofit, your book, so many different things going on. And lots of opportunity, especially while being backed by AI. Okay, jumping right in, I think like before we get into specifics on the industry and your company, I think your story about starting Drum Cafe North America needs to come out, because the South Africa education to the jewelry business to the party where you met the Motorola client, like that story was fantastic. So if you could reiterate that for our listeners, that'd be fantastic.
Wow, Ethan, I'm super impressed. You've got such a great memory. Well, so yes, I grew up in South Africa, right? I'm an organizational psychologist and I did my MBA there. And literally, shortly, kind of in 2000, I decided I wanted to immigrate here, which was really a dream that I'd had since I was a little girl. So I moved here with my then husband, who's now my ex-husband. So we moved to America. I had won a contract with Nordstrom's because I had a jewelry business, jewelry design, business in South Africa. And I brought it to America because I won a contract with Nordstrom's to, in all their kind of California stores. And after a period of time, it just wasn't working out. Whether it was, firstly, it was very difficult logistically because we were bringing in all the products from South Africa, and sizing and things like that were a problem. And also, I don't think the style was kind of fitting with what the American population, that avatar, really was looking for. So shortly after that, I literally, I did a program with this woman, Debbie Ford, who was my mentor. And out of that came my why for life, right? What was my purpose? And it was to shift and change energy on this planet by one or by many. And literally 2 weeks after that kind of why, mission, or purpose came to me, a friend of mine called and said, you know, I really think you should. He had a show in South Africa that was kind of an interactive stomp. And he was like, you should really take this into the American market. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So he sent
Big
me
buttons in
some
them.
videos, and like the hair on my body raised. I went to a party one night and I met this SVP at Motorola, and she started talking to me and she said, wow, you know, what are you going to do in America? And I started riffing with her about, you know, what I'd seen in the video, having no idea what I was talking about, quite frankly. But obviously she was enthralled and energized maybe by my level of energy. And she was like, wow, I've got this regional, my regional directors are meeting in Las Vegas at the Stratosphere, and I don't want to hire a keynote person. I want to hire you. And I said, oh, fantastic. So not knowing what was going to happen, I got home that night. In South Africa, it was 9 hours ahead. I called my friend Warren and I said, Warren, I just landed Motorola as my first client. I need your help and your support. So I booked a ticket. I flew to South Africa. I got some training on how to even, you know, use a djembe drum. I'd never drummed before. I mean, I was a dancer, but I never drummed before. And I then went to the South African kind of farmers market and literally found this guy who was selling drums from West Africa, which are the drums we use, which is called the djembe drum. And I bought 100. I bought stage gear, shipped them to America. A friend of mine cleared them because I didn't even have a work visa at that point. And she cleared them from customs. I put them in my garage. And the next week as well, she took me to this opening of a museum, like an African art museum in my neighborhood. And as I walked in, there was like 3 West African djembe players from Guinea. And I walked up to them and I was like, I want you, I want you, and I want you. And so we had a meeting. We kind of had rehearsals in my backyard. I flew Warren in. We drove to Vegas, delivered the Motorola event. This woman's still a really good friend of mine today. She lives in San Antonio, Texas. And Laura Lozano is her name. And she was like, we did this event for her. And she was like, wow, that was amazing. I got to hire you again. And I have to tell you, Ethan, she is the only client that I've ever had that said, you know what? Charge me more money. It's not enough money. Your value is so much higher than what you're charging me.
Wow.
And it was really all these kind of stepping stones that were almost like thrown, like a Hansel and Gretel story, right? By what I believe to be a greater wisdom, a greater higher wisdom. But it was almost leading me to this, right? This is what I had to be doing. And I do have to say that, like, when I'm on stage and I do this work, I honestly feel like I'm in my zone of excellence. So, that's kind of how it all started, from literally my garage.
I mean, it's so impressive. Yeah, I mean, talk about a calling, right? Like, one domino slightly fell, which was getting introduced to drumming, and then you go and you watch this and you watch a video of it, and then you meet somebody at a party. Like, the progression and how everything just lined up perfectly afterwards is so interesting. Could you tell us, just so, like, I feel like, I can only imagine that articulating that to the executive at Motorola was very challenging, because it's something that is such like a lived experience. Could you tell us a little bit about, you know, the same way that you were able to convince her that the lived experience is so much better, could you explain to our listeners why that experience drives so much value for your clients?
Absolutely. Like, you think about it, you must have gone to lots of conferences, right? And you walk in and people are kind of sitting at their tables, drinking their coffee on their phones, you know, finding their seat. You know, they're thinking, okay, so the CEO is going to come out and he's going to say something, and then they're going to show a video. You know, so there's all these things that people have perceptions of. And what actually happens is that, you know, they stand behind the ballroom doors. We fling those doors open. They walk in to this unbelievable, you know, West African rhythm that's on stage with all my musicians. They see a drum on every chair and they're like, whoa, what's about to happen here? Like they're completely flung out of their head into their heart space. And that's really where you want them to be, right? Drumming is a primal behavior, and people love to drum. And so with everybody engaged and involved and interacting, they're not only like, they're using all modalities. They're seeing, it's visual, it's auditory, it's kinesthetic. And, I think it was Maya Angelou who said, it's not what you tell people or what they hear, it's how you make them feel. And this is really where this program impacts the most amount of value, is that people feel excited, they feel energized, they feel renewed. I mean, if you think about it, especially after COVID and after the 2008 crash in the real estate market, like people just, they weren't coming together for so long. And to be able to sit next to somebody who might be the CEO and the other person on the other side who's like your admin assistant, and two people in front of you are like, a teammate from a cross-functional unit or division, and you're all coming together and you're getting onto the same page and you're busting these silos between you, and you align to the same message and the same kind of content. It's almost like that connection before major content. And it's the connection that keeps people motivated and keeps people together. If you look at Gallup, the company Gallup has done so much research, and the one thing they said is that the biggest reason for people leaving a company is A, because they hate their boss, and B, because they don't have a BFF at work and somebody that they can really confide in. And what the drumming does is it breaks down these barriers, and it gets them to communicate through this universal language, and it elevates their spirit. And when you put people in a place where they're doing what they love doing, they're just more productive, they're more efficient, they're more creative and innovative. So that's really what it's all about. That's the added value.
Yeah, no, I think extremely well articulated, and I can only imagine how much it brings people together. I haven't gone to a live drumming show like this, and I need to go to something similar. But every time that I go out to any live music event, I mean, live music is so much different than the music in your headphones, and the degree to which you bond with people because of that medium of music, and quite literally waves going through each of your bodies. And if you're participating in that, I can only imagine how much more like sentimental and connective the nature of it is. So I wish I worked at Boston Consulting Group, and I wish that they did something like that for us. I wish that they had hired you. That would have been fantastic. Yeah, okay. I guess zooming a little bit out into the industry, and we've talked a little bit about COVID, and want to go into more just how things have been shifting. So you're at over $1 million a year pre-COVID, and then obviously the business gets nearly shut down in that kind of situation, and then now we have these very new industry and interpersonal dynamics as well that have emerged since COVID. Curious, like, how the industry shift looked like. Let's delete the COVID time period because it's too sad to even think about, and think about how things were prior and how things are now afterwards. What's different, and what are you able to capitalize on versus what's been lost?
Massive differences. So prior, people just wanted to get together. They wanted something really unique in the marketplace that could bring people together. Literally through COVID, as you said, my businesses, both of them, Blue Fire Leadership and Drum Cafe, were completely shut down because they're all in person. I had to shift and I had to pivot, and I started looking at kind of virtual programs. Doesn't have the same impact. It will never have the same impact. And it also, from a musical standpoint, there's all these lags on Zoom and other kinds of platforms. So post-COVID has been a pretty tough time, I have to say. I think a lot of companies are still, firstly, it took companies a long time before they got together. Okay. And because I think there were a lot of people working remote. That became the name to the game. Then they had a process of where they were kind of coming back to work, and people refused to come back to work and wanted to work at home still because their lives had changed as a result of that, right? Their animal, their furry family members were used to them being at home all the time. So were their kids. There was a lot going on, and at the same time there was also pressure because they were working husband and wife in the same husband and wife, husband and husband, wife and husband, wife and wife, whatever, in the same, environment. And so people wanted to also go back to work part of the time. So how I have felt since post-COVID is the beginning, certainly 22, 23, we were starting to see a comeback and people were getting together. They were starting to have meetings, certainly 23, 24, not so much 22. 23, 24, having meetings and, utilizing the uniqueness of certain vendors like myself to really uplift and engage and inspire people. Now what I'm feeling, there's been quite a dip, 25 and 26.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's been a dip. And I think, I can't blame it on, I can't say it's AI. I don't think it's AI, because I think if people really understood that AI is just a tool, right? And we're there to learn how to use it and be the masters of using that tool and how that tool can really, or tools can really cut down so much of our time. I don't believe I even investigated doing an avatar on stage and kind of giving an avatar to people and running a program through an avatar. But then you're really not getting the experience of a real life individual who's connecting and engaging with people.
Yeah,
right?
a virtual performance, obviously it's one step better than everyone sitting around on drums on a Zoom call and it being complete chaos and lag and horrible audio experience, but it's not the same as Natalie up on the stage with the 3 guys she got at the African History Museum and going out there killing it and really making it a engaging thing that is felt by everyone. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I also, though, think that economically, I think with everything that's going on in the world right now, Ethan, globally, I think we're facing so many challenges. I think companies are scared to, they are having meetings, they are using keynote speakers inside their companies. So I've developed a few products now that are bringing prices down because I would say we're certainly not the cheapest in the market, and I don't position myself as that because that's not who we are as a brand.
Yeah.
But I do understand budgets, and so that's kind of what I'm dealing with right now is to figure out ways and be innovative around how to deal with an economy that's shifting and changing radically, a global world that's shifting and changing radically, and how do I pivot within that by still being live and offering something that can get people to be together, because until you've experienced it, you don't really understand the value. It's me telling you the value, but I have thousands of clients. Most of my clients are referrals and repeat business.
Yeah.
So that just tells you a referral to a new client will then become a client and they will refer. So I've grown organically throughout my whole 25 years of being in business. And, that organic growth has really meant that the people that I'm servicing know the value because they've experienced the value.
Yeah. I guess moving away from industry at this point, now that we've gone directly into what you're up to and what you're thinking about and the approach to client acquisition, I'm curious, have you taken any, what attempts have you taken so far to get outside of just the purely organic word of mouth referral? Have you thought about that? And also, if not, is it feeling like a need to, or is it just, are priorities shifting away from client acquisition?
No, priorities are definitely not shifting away from client acquisition. And I've tried a lot of, funnily enough, using AI, a lot of techniques, right? I've spent a ton of money in lead acquisition through, I won't mention the company names, but it's much more of a spray and pray methodology. Okay. You can sweep AI bot can sweep through LinkedIn and send me a bunch of people that aren't really decision makers. Yeah. So there's a couple of companies that I've met who are really using AI effectively to do research on the leads, to actually research their companies, to, build video into the emails so that it becomes more attractive for them to open the email, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I'm about to try one of those companies out of Scotland, that I met, that I was obviously attracted to. But
Hmm.
no, still very much top of my list is lead acquisition. It's just obviously not fast enough from just a pure referral base. And a lot of people have left the companies they were at, right? And so I got a call last week, for example, from a guy that was with a healthcare company and now is on the board of an association, and like highly recommended me to the person organizing this event. And so this is years later, 8 years later, they still remembered the drumming experience.
Wow.
And so that's what I'm kind of, I do have to do lead acquisition. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely a mixture of pushing the stuff that you already have through your organic pipeline, but then also I think sounds like a step in the right direction. Trying with the company from Scotland. I know that we offer services similar to that, and it shows results. But again, it depends on the business, right? Like yours is something that you have to live it and you have to understand it in order to really digest what it's capable of doing. Um,
Yeah.
I guess I'm curious. Have you ever tried a route of um, engaging in some kind of performance and then using performances as a pipeline? Like some people do like keynote speaking at conferences,
Mhm.
and then try to convert into clientele afterwards. Have you tried any approaches like this?
I've definitely done showcases. I've done, with event planners who have asked me to come in and open up all their, where they have event planners and hotel people. Um, and, I have had some business out of that. I
Yeah.
find that the best clients are really the clients that are inside of the organization that organize events. So that could be anybody who's organizing an event for their division inside of the organization. They are because I think external event planners tend to create a smorgasbord of ideas. And the ones that really, know me well and have used me many times will present me when they know that that's a fit. And so, there's an 80% higher chance of me kind of closing that than just the spray and pray methodology. But I like your idea. I'm also looking at now going, presenting myself just as a pure keynote speaker,
Yeah.
um, and then, not using rhythm, uh, but performances alone don't show people the interactive element
Yeah.
of what we can achieve. So, if you had a marching band, like a college marching band up front, but nobody's participating, they're just listening, then they observers of an experience rather being the experience.
Yeah.
So, when I run, I'm actually just quoting on a quite a large project for a leadership development experience with a global company, and I'm going to build, drumming to open up the each of the modules, because they are going to highly benefit from, even if it's 15 minutes, um, of really just busting them open, right?
Yeah.
And getting their innovative brain out so that they can absorb the material and they can bring some ideas and solutions to certain leadership issues that they need to bring to the table.
Yeah, I think you raised like a really important point, right? Like when you connect with this, like you've said the word primal, but I'm thinking like neuroplasticity is like the word that comes to mind to me. Definitely music invigorates that kind of mindset. Sometimes for me, when I'm too darn tired, it comes out. If it's like 2 a.m. and I've been working too long, it's like, oh, all of a sudden I'm smart now, or I feel creative at least. I'm wondering, have you done anything to go about quantifying the effects of engaging in an experience like this and then translating into an environment, right? Because companies these days they need to feel like it's tangible. And so I'm
Mm.
curious if you what you've done from a quantitative lens to try to describe the value that it can provide.
Okay, that's an excellent question, Ethan, because what it brings to the table, or what brings to the fore, is that, previously this has been very transaction based.
Hmm.
And, since my coaching and my mentoring of CEOs to scale their business, the customer experience journey is really, really important. And that's a long-term building of relationships. It's not just a transaction.
Yeah.
And so, in a sense, what you're saying is, if I just can you just repeat your question one more time? Because your
Yeah,
exact
yeah.
question.
I mean, the point was just that companies these days, they really want something quantified so that they can connect
Right.
it with a
Yeah.
value statement from a financial standpoint, right? So that as
Yeah.
somebody who's maybe like a head of HR, office planning, or events is able to go to the CFO and say, "Hey, look, like we actually can quantify the benefits of this thing. Like it costs us this much money, but the sessions that might come with it, or the improved productivity, or the amount that people are going to show up late to work or not show up to work is expected to go down by X amount."
Right. Okay. So let me explain it this way. If you Gallup has done a ton of research on this.
Yeah,
The effects of interaction, engagement. Literally, when people are engaged, they have like massive increases in whether it's sales increases, decreases in revenue, but like large percentage differences when you're engaged. Um, Personally, I have not gone into each of the companies, because what it would require is me going into every company after the fact and doing engagement surveys
yeah,
um, on those companies, right? Because otherwise, and I would have to have pre-data prior to doing the event to actually measure the post data.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's pretty difficult in my industry. But what I can tell you qualitatively is, for example, I give two examples. I did an event for an insurance company. There was a woman in the event who started completely folding her arms, didn't want to engage. After like 10 minutes, the person next to her was like looking at her, and then she started engaging. By the end of the experience, she was on stage doing, she was doing solos on stage. And I watched that progression happen in front of my eyes, giving her the space, because I always meet people at their map of the world, right? I don't force them into anything. But her manager came up to me afterwards and said, "I don't know what you did, but that woman never participates in any meetings. She's like a big saboteur. I don't know what you did, but whatever you did, I want you to come back every week to do it again."
Hmm.
I have another example where, it's a large kind of telecommunications company here in San Diego, and the marketing person was like, we have to have you. And the board, not the board, the board of C-suite, all the leaders, they were not convinced. So I had a meeting with all of them, and I'm not going to give you the whole spiel about it, but at the
Yeah,
end of it, I asked the financial guy, and I said, "Listen," because he was the one who was like, not so sure. I said, "What if I offer you your money back if you do not feel this was of value for your team? I'll write you a check on the spot." He was like, "Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I'll do that." That's
yeah.
taking no risk. And at the end of it, this
I like that
guy
you
was
put it in their morality by doing that. It's risky for you because they could just be like, "I liked it, but I didn't like it," like, or
right,
other way around.
but
I liked it, but I didn't like it. Yeah,
but it kind of talks to their authenticity, because when you go through an experience like that and you feel very transformed, people feel, I mean, he was sitting at the very front, and they were literally on beach chairs. It was like a beach theme. He
ooh,
was
I
in
like that.
board shorts. He had like his baseball cap on the other way around, and he was, he held his drum in his hands, and he was bashing on it. And I was like, wow. I went up to him afterwards. I said, "Steve, tell me, like, can how did you feel? Do you want your money back?" And he's like, "Are you insane?" He said, I don't know what we're going to do next year to even match this." You know,
I
I had
feel
Steve
like
Ballmer on.
easy. Just hire me again. We'll do it a different
Yeah,
theme.
exactly. And I did a few events for them, but it's like Steve Ballmer from Microsoft was on stage when he was around and literally bust a hole almost through my own drum. And, they hired me for 40 some events. So,
Wow,
um,
that's a lot.
yeah, through the years, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like those are more qualitative metrics.
Yeah, yeah, the anecdotal experience. Yeah, I'm thinking in my mind like, all right, what does it look like turning this into something quantified? I'll give you an example of something that
Yeah,
it's making me think of. Aetna
yeah,
Aetna did this study on mental health and employee like lateness and absences, and they realized that it was costing $600 a year on average per employee. But then they conducted this meditation program, and they found that the people who were actually driving that average up, right, so the people that were frequently not coming to work and making that average 600, there was an actual savings on a per person basis of more than $2,000, because they were able to look at the fact that this select type of people who's particularly unengaged. So that would be the equivalent of that woman in the room that was high level and wasn't really feeling it at first, but then you were able to turn it around. They were able to quantify what it really looks like when you identify those people, and they were able to make a big financial impact ultimately at the end of the day when they studied that. So it's food for
I
thought
love
for.
that. I love that. I love that example, and I'm super open to something like that.
Yeah,
Um, you know, as to the how to, it's a whole different
yeah,
story, but the what and the why, I love.
conceptually, right?
Yeah, I love
the
it. I love
the
it.
implications of it, the implications of the quantification are great. The how to go about it is definitely not something I can come up with thinking right now, even though I'm looking up
No,
for the answer. But all
no,
I'm seeing is this glaring light.
the how will come once you've got the why and the what. So the
Yeah,
how we don't have to worry about right now, but I'm very open to that.
yeah, yeah,
I also kind of feel like when I think about the Blue Fire leadership work that I do, the leadership academies, and you think about this firm that I'm working with right now, they've done so little leadership training, so little. And as I said to you earlier, Gallup kind of said that the greatest reason people leave their job is because they hate their boss, right? If two people leave a company because they can't stand their boss because their boss doesn't know how to lead, think about what that costs in terms of hiring, right?
yeah,
Because what they say, it's like a 7% of their salary that goes into the hiring and onboarding of people,
yeah,
and the loss of productivity and all of that if you lose two people because the manager does not know how to lead.
yeah,
So why wouldn't you spend X amount of money, which would be way less than two large salary losses,
yeah.
um, to train your managers?
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's the same kind of argument.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think probably even easier quantification there that you're surely able to do. I guess that makes me think, how have you thought about the like joint growth strategy between Drum Cafe and Blue Fire? Like, is there or what does it look like so far, the joint efforts between the two?
Mhm.
And do you have any perspective ideas for moving forward?
Absolutely. I mean, I bring a lot of rhythm because it's not only, the opening and closing of conferences and things like that. That's
Yeah,
pretty much Drum Cafe solo. But with leadership work, I bring a lot of rhythmic elements into leadership programs. And whether it's drums or egg shakers or boom whackers or drumsticks or whatever it is, I do a lot of activities that make a point, and the point gets debriefed and people have experienced an activity that they can really think about how was this impactful to me.
yeah,
What did I do in this scenario, kind of what propelled me forward, what held me back.
hmm,
And so there's the interlink between the two.
yeah,
They're very aligned, which is
yeah,
kind of why I started Blue Fire.
yeah.
It was after Drum Cafe, but it's why I started Blue Fire Leadership, because at the end of the day the alignment between the two is very close.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're able to triple down with the organic growth, right? Like that's
Hmm.
ultimately the purpose it serves. Yeah, and the cross selling is great, right? Okay, I got somebody from Drum Cafe. Now I'm in good kudos with all of their leadership, and now now they like me as a person. And so what's the next step that is most logical there, right? Do something on a more personal level, because you can't do drumming every single day or week or month. Max like
Absolutely.
twice a year. I'm curious, probably the most you've ever done, probably for one corporation, I'm gonna guess 3 times in 1 year.
Uh, you mean in terms of, well, yes, for example, for Boot Barn, I did their kind of all their store managers and district managers. So, and then we did district managers, regional managers, and store
Ah,
managers, and then we did an entire kind of leadership event for all of those,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that happened within a year, and the CEO of that company has since moved, but he hired me last year, and
Mm,
and so did the sales director, who's moved to two other companies and hired me at both those companies. So
mm,
that's where it gets interesting for me. I
yeah.
enjoy that kind of cross pollination.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, in addition to being cross pollination, that's fun. It's also a great financial opportunity. It just made me think that as you go about your targeting and work with the team in Scotland, that certainly there's the ability to identify customer archetypes where inherently their business is set up such that there is separate divisions, and it would be like you get one and you sell it to one division, but then if it goes well, which it seems to go well every single time, your one client is now like a quadruple client, or
Yeah.
uh, three or fourfold.
What you're saying is 100% right. Like I had prior to COVID, I had a lot of those contracts. Like PricewaterhouseCoopers was one of them. Kaiser Permanente was one of them. Cisco, not the food group, the tech company. So
Yep.
I had a lot of contracts with companies, and that's something that I really would like to rebuild post COVID, is those contracts. So it's just, I guess, and I must be honest, like I'm going to be totally vulnerable here, but one of my biggest issues is, and I coach this to my CEOs, right? You cannot scale a business unless you have a team-led business, right? If you're sitting and doing everything, and you're not in the balcony and you're in the weeds most of the time, you cannot scale a business.
Yeah.
And pre-COVID, I had a scaled business. I had a team-led business.
Yeah.
So that if I wasn't there for 3 weeks, then nothing collapsed, right? It
Yeah.
continued. Right now, because of all the things that have happened post-COVID,
Yeah.
I'm back in the weeds situation, and I've got to get to a place where I'm pulling myself out and into the balcony.
Yeah. Do you see the gap between being in the weeds and being on the balcony as you're just too strained? Like what needs to happen in order to get back up on the balcony? Is it like you're just looking for people and want to hire now, or why are you not hiring and building that team now? Right? Is it more
Yeah.
clients need to come in first, right?
Exactly right. So I'm kind of teetering on a tightrope here. I need to land like business to fund new people. And I have to say that, I should just get new people no matter what, even if it's just one person that's like a 2IC to me,
Yeah.
because, you're not paying their full salary in the first month anyway. And the issue is the reason kind of like there's holdback is there's financial, the financial pressure of that. And B, I've also got to shift in terms of I know that I can let go, because I did when I had a team run business. But the hard part is letting go and trusting others that you've hired the right person. And I know exactly what I have to do, because I coach on this. But you know what they
Yeah.
say? You
Practice what you preach. Don't
you teach
practice what you preach sometimes.
you teach what you most need to learn. So I'm sitting in that boat at the moment, but really giving it a lot of thought, because I know that I'm much more an innovator. I have so many ideas, and
Yeah.
I want to do all of them. And then I
Hmm.
start doing all of them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do all of these. I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, people have, you've got to come to that mindset. And it's me pulling myself back into that mindset because I have
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I'd wonder so like to me I see the problem that when you're not able to exercise this creativity and innovator mindset, you're not able to actually execute on the benefits to the business that come from that. And so by being stuck in the weeds and too much in the day to day, it's maybe even limiting your ability to have the growth, even though you're in the weeds just for the growth itself. So I'd
Yeah.
imagine that that's a frustrating sentiment. Definitely, yeah, resonate
Yeah.
with
And I
that.
mean,
Well,
I do hire out. I hire out to contractors for social media, I have a virtual assistant. I have another person, doing website stuff for me using AI now.
yeah,
Um, so I hire out, but unfortunately, unless you have somebody inside the business who really kind of almost not only taking off my plate the to-do list, right?
mhm,
Because according to Gallup Clifton Strengths, I'm very high. I'm a very high achiever, so I love getting shit done, but
yeah,
I also love delegating. The problem is that you have to have the right person in that position to delegate to. Certainly for
mhm,
me, and I think for most businesses, right? But there's ways to get that right person.
yeah, yeah,
So that's an important next step for me is
yep,
to
yep.
really get that 2IC into place.
Gotcha. Well, it sounds like the next 12 months. I was going to ask like, where do you see it going in 12 months? But it seems pretty clear. You want the client growth, and then you want the client growth to enable the team growth, and then hopefully it just compounds from there. Um,
I mean,
any
I've
any
created
other sites on the 12-month goal? Like anything else that's specific?
absolutely. I start off with a vision. Like I built a big picture vision for myself, 3 years out. Like I put myself into 2029 and said, what do I want my life to be like? Who's my dream team? What do I want to be doing with my days? And so I have some definite, the nonprofit is, I'm going to manifest that it goes global. Um, this business is going to look very different in 12 months time than it does now. Otherwise I've got to get out of the business, right? That's kind of
Yeah,
how it needs to look different, or I need to exit.
got it.
So yeah, I have some very firm, I have that big picture 3-year vision, and I'm now trying to reverse engineer and kind of see, okay, what do I want, what do I need to do in the next 12 months, and how am I going to fund it?
Yeah,
All these different projects, right?
yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much where I am.
Interesting. Lots of moving parts. Excited to see where things go. Definitely be keeping an eye on it, and I'm sure
Yeah.
some of our listeners will as well. And last thing for the listeners, um, is there anything that you want to share in terms of information on your businesses and where they can go to learn more about you?
Well, firstly, I'm going to give you my telephone number. I know people get shocked when I do that, but it's like, yeah, phone me, text me, probably text me, it's best. So my number is 858-583-1960. You can get me on Natalie at drumcafenorthamerica.com or Natalie at bluefireleadership.com. And both of those are my websites as well. So drumcafenorthamerica, .com and bluefireleadership.com. So there's lots of ways to get in touch, and I love to chat. I love to have just a short kind of conversation with people, just to say, what are your needs? What are where are you at? And is there some form of alignment and fit here?
Yeah, yeah, love that. If today's conversation resonated with you and you're looking to learn how business leaders are driving value using AI, make sure to hit subscribe. Feel free to check out our other episodes, and I've also left my LinkedIn in the description below, so you're welcome to connect, and I will see you next time.